Moving on to the other side of the bracket, the AFC division, and those two games, honestly, the games were still pretty entertaining on that side. You had the Ravens versus the Bills, and then you had the Browns versus Kansas City. What did you think with those games, Pat? Did you get a chance to watch those?
Definitely. And the Browns-Chiefs game, we got to talk about first. What a crazy game on that side for the AFC. That game on Sunday was just outrageous. I mean, the ebbs and flows of that game. But I think there's three particular plays or instances in that game that we can really talk about. First off is obviously the touchback that happened with the Browns. I think it was T. Higgins was the one that was reaching for the goal line. Ball got knocked loose. It went through the end zone, out of the back of the end zone. So that's a touchback. And what that means is that the offense loses possession. They don't get the ball back. They have to punt it away. They get a free kick to the defense. And it just seems like, there was debate on Twitter the entire time about, what that rule should be. And personally, for me, I think that the offense, if they lose the football out of the end zone, should get it at the 20-yard line. And then whatever down it was, say it was third down, and if you had reached the 20 on the play, that got you a first down, you'd start with first down at the 20-yard line. If it was, third down and, it was past the 20 where the first down marker was, and you have to bring it back to the 20, then it's fourth down, and you probably have to kick a field goal or something. So you don't give the team the ball at the goal line if they fumble it out of the end zone. You're still kind of penalizing them for losing it out of the end zone, but you're not losing possession, because I just think that's such a harsh punishment for a fumble out of the end zone. When you fumble it out of bounds and you get it right there. Secondly, and you and I were talking about this before the show, that was a helmet-to-helmet hit. And, we were saying before, too, you should be able to use instant replay on that hit. So I don't understand why that's not replayed. It's such a big play in the game, whether, you get called for it and it's not helmet-to-helmet, or they don't make the call and it is helmet-to-helmet. So, unfortunately, they didn't call helmet-to-helmet. The Browns probably would have kept possession. Who knows what would have happened. Second big thing was Mahomes getting knocked out, whether he got a concussion or whether he got choked out, which some announcers were saying, where he just lost oxygen and he clearly was stumbling around, did not go back in the game. I think that's the right move there. I think in years past in the NFL, he would have gone back in. But, over the last 5 to 10 years, they've been doing a better job of concussions and head injuries, and I'm glad he didn't go back in. So that was a huge part of the game, because I think if he stayed in, this would have been a runaway. And then, of course, the fourth down call. I mean, I'm sitting there saying, why don't the Chiefs just run the ball, run the clock out, punt it to the Browns with, I think a minute 20 would have been on the clock. Baker Mayfield would have had to drive the length of the field to score a touchdown. What are they doing? They have their backup quarterback in there, and then Chad Henne just rolls out, throws a pass to Tyreek Hill, and the rest is history. And those are the three, I think, biggest points of the game, and just very exciting parts of the game.
Yeah, well, first, as a coach, I'd like to speak to that point. And Andy Reid just honestly went to the bag of tricks that us coaches do, and we just play the numbers at time, and we play the percentages. And at that point, it tells you to go for it. It tells you to go for it, because you have a high chance. If you get that first down, the game's over at that point. They don't get the ball back. They don't even have a chance to score. But if you do decide you want to punt them the ball, then they do at that point have a chance to score. So here's the thing there. You go for it, you get it, the game's over. You go for it, you don't get it, you still have a chance to play defense, to defend and win the game on that end of the game. But so it was just the right move. Go for the win, and they got it, and it just paid off. Called a high percentage route to Tyreek Hill in the flat. An easy pass for the quarterback, especially for any quarterback. I know high school quarterbacks that could make that throw 9 out of 10 times. So Chad Henne especially can do that. Does it, takes himself out of the pocket beautifully, throws a beautiful little pass to Tyreek Hill, and that was the game, really. So they didn't really even get a chance to come back. I know, sorry for Browns fans, but that was it. That was it. That was the end of their season there. But there was a couple other big moments in that game. And like you said, with Mahomes getting knocked out, I think that's really the talk of the week, to be honest. I went back being a coach and watched that play many a times to see. Look back at that play. He kind of gets dragged down, but it's the front crown of his forehead that hits the ground. And that's exactly the force that would actually give him the concussion. So it wasn't from the other player. It was just kind of the way he was dragged down and actually had his head. It almost looked like an old school wrestling move. I almost wanted to eclipse it to like the Stone Cold Stunner, to be honest, where he like drives his head into the ground, and I don't think the defender did it. It's a fast game, split-second decisions are made. It just so happens he tried to grab him up around the collar there, and it just so happens that he kind of drove his head into the ground there. But that did give him a concussion. Surprisingly, like I think most Kansas City fans, I was in shock. I was like, what's going to happen now? But Chad Henne came out, managed the game well, did good. And I think, I've said this before, obviously the best job in the world is a backup quarterback in the NFL. I mean, you get paid tons of money. You rarely have to perform, okay? Even in practice, you don't generally get reps with the first team, okay? So it's like you don't have to do much, but here's where you're seeing why they get paid so much money, because they have to step in moments like that, big moments in a playoff game, and make that 4th and inches pass to Tyreek Hill to move them on to the conference championship game. Another play, like you said, was the hit, and that was definitely a targeting call. The NFL needs to go back and look at that. We're talking about making the game safer. As a coach, I would like to see the game played more safe. It's just going to protect the players, protect the longevity of the game. Football's been under attack for many years now, especially on the safety side. So I would like to see them be able to, like you said, review that hit and review that call. If they did go back, I'm sure they would call a targeting there. And like I said, me and you talked about it before the show started. Daniel Sorensen just seems to hit like that all the time, gets away with it, and he got away with it, but it was a big-time call here that cost them, the Browns, a big possession. If you go back, you call that a targeting penalty. The Browns get the ball on the 1-yard line. You give it to Nick Chubb. You give it to Kareem Hunt. They were both running pretty hard that day. I'm pretty sure it could possibly change the outcome of the game, or at least the way the game was unfolding at that point. So that was pretty big. And then in the other game quickly, I really just think the Ravens didn't really come to play. Buffalo looked really good. They've looked really good all season. Look, it was sad. Lamar Jackson got hurt in that game. Another concussion in the second half. So you saw they erred on the side of safety and didn't bring him back as well. Surprisingly, their backup quarterback came in and played amazing as well. But the Ravens just didn't have enough, and the Bills just pulled it out. So they're moving on.
Yeah, the Ravens came out flat. I don't know what the issue was. I mean, they have a very experienced coaching staff who's been in a lot of playoff games. I don't know what happened there. And sometimes that happens to teams. We've seen it, as we've said all along, we're New England Patriots fans. We've seen it with the Pats in the past, about a decade ago when they went up against the Ravens, and then they went up against the Jets the following year and just come out flat right away. And when you're playing a good team, you sometimes just don't recover from that. I think that's what we saw with the Ravens, because the Bills weren't great. They were solid, but that wasn't their best performance, but they showed some toughness and some grittiness, and that's why they were able to come away with that win.